Hi guys and welcome. This is going to be a new series of videos. We're going to be like scary stories. We're going to be like, some might be about based on Elmo, where he goes crazy or something like that, or Abandoned by Disney. But some of them you're not going to have heard before, and trust me, they are scary. And so let's get started. So, when I was a kid, I would race up to the top of the stairs as fast as I could, like it was some sort of silly game. Well, I must have been 5 or 6 at the time. I'm not sure, but I know I was very little. Somewhere along the way, a voice at the top of the stairs started to whisper to me. It would make bets with me, such as, I bet you a penny you can't make it to the top of the stairs. I don't really think there was a certain amount of time or anything. As I said, I was very little, so I probably didn't have any counting abilities anyway. I recall just sitting at the top of the stairs, having conversations with this voice, about betting, of course. Eventually the voice, it was like a whisper of a man's voice, not my own voice in my head, started to bet me my life. Instead of pennies, I'd say, I bet you your life you can't make it up to the stairs, blah blah. As I got older, it stopped. I never really thought about it at all, and I never mentioned it to anyone. So, one night I was sleeping over at my brother's place. I was about 18, he was 22, and we were talking about spooky stories. Out of nowhere, I brought up their voice at the top of the stairs, and my brother got all quiet and weird. Before I even mentioned the betting aspect, he said, "Did it make bets with you?" We both looked at each other, horrified. It certainly was freaky. After effect, a lot of bad stuff went down me and my family at the period of time in my life. And my mother, a heavily religious lady, said there was a lot of evil in our lives at the time. I don't at all think our place was haunted, but what it was built in the late 70s, and as I got older, I never experienced anything like that again. About 10 years ago, my 3-year-old son and I moved into a new house. Well, it was a new to us. It was actually a very old house. The inside of the house always seemed to be just a little darker and a little older and colder than it should be. I noticed for the first time I was to view the house, but it was a summer. I think no doubt we would soon have cooling course. Soon after we moved, a friend of mine came by. We were sitting and talking for a few minutes, but she seemed uncomfortable the whole time. Then I saw in her face something in the other room caught her attention. Her big eyes got big. She said, "I have to go." I asked her what was wrong, but she didn't want to tell me. I kept after her. Her reaction was kind of freaking me out. On her way out of the door, she finally said, "This house is haunted," but we wouldn't tell me what made her think so. Still, to this day, 10 years later, she refuses to tell me what she saw. About a few weeks after that night, my 3-year-old son casually asked me who the old lady in the bathroom was. The day I was leaving for work, but once I got into the car, I realised I needed to run back to the house to get something. I walked in the house, and as soon as I got inside, this framed photo on the wall shot off the wall. Now I don't mean it. It fell because of some issue with a nail or anything like that. It horizontally away from the wall, not vertically down, and it landed on the mosaic table. with enough force to break some of the tiles off. I felt whatever was in the house. But I came back in after. It thought I had left for the day. After living in the house for about 6 months, I noticed a weird square cut into the boards on the deck. There was no handle, but it was very able to pry up. The hole was just big enough to fit through, and there was a ladder going down for some reason. I went down and found myself in what looked like a homemade basement. It was basically just a room dug out of the earth. No constructed walls or stone supporting or anything. As you would expect, it was a basement that was built with the house. It was very dark, but I could see over in the corner suspicious looking large stone. It looked like one of those light coloured 100-year-old headstones that you see in old cemeteries. Just then, some camera crickets started jumping at me, so I got out that basement as fast as I could, and now I never went back. Now this is a part of the affected me the most reason why I left the house. One night I was in bed but not yet asleep. Laying on my stomach, I heard someone walk into the room. I heard footsteps come from the doorway over to my bed. I didn't realise until later the fact I heard footsteps. I felt someone put their hands on my back. 2 hands just gently laid flat on my back and kept there. I assumed it was my son. I said, "What are you doing?" But no answer. I looked up and there was no one there. I got up and checked my son's bedroom. He was abed and asleep. We moved out soon after that. I grew up in the country in an old farm house a few miles from the nearest town. On about 40 wooden acres, in the middle of the woods to the north of the house, was a small creek. My dad used to take my brother and me out to the creek to play while he chainsawed up dead trees to burn out our wood stove. Our few favourite spots was a giant rock in the middle of the dead, stepping on little stones. Rock Island we called it. A little ways upstream from Rock Island was a spring, and the top of the hill right next to the spring was an old-time tinny well. I loved Rock Island, but I hated the well. I didn't even like looking at it. I used to have these horrible nightmares of pieces of body floating down the creek, or of disembodied hands coming out of the spring. The well overflowing with blood. It would wake up screaming, etc. I was a pretty sheltered kid and wasn't exposed to much violence, so I didn't know where the dreams were coming from. When I was a teenager, I worked in the nursing home in a town. There's a 96-year-old lady named Mary who lived there, and I used to talk sometimes. She was meant to live very with me and had lived in my town forever. One day she asked me which biome I was, because my dad was from a big family. I told her. She asked me if I lived on the road where I lived. I told her yes. She told me that her uncle used to live there, but after the war, I think the First World War, he wasn't right in the head. And one day he went over to the old well and put a gun in his mouth. So I guess that's what explains my nightmares.